I'm back with the final E3 conference, a conference that's been getting a lot of buzz around the world. I wasn't sure if this one would even happen, that's how tumultuous the lead up to it has been. I criticized Sony in my last video for seemingly not having their own conference sorted out despite knowing the time that they were going ahead of time. But the scheduling of this one was even worse. First off, they weren't even at the LA Convention Center. Instead, they opted to hold the thing in Singapore. I get it, Singapore is a beautiful, wealthy country, but because they were there, the time zones were completely different. What this led to was the summit starting at the same time as Sony's E3 presentation, an instant death blow to viewership. I'm pretty sure that Sony had announced their time first, so the blame for this lies solely upon whoever scheduled the summit. The first thing that really struck me about the summit was seeing the US and North Korean flags standing side by side. I should have expected that. It's pretty standard protocol for two countries meeting, so I guess I wasn't mentally prepared for it. But what came next made the meeting between President Moon of South Korea and Kim seem like a normal occurrence. Seeing Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump walk out, shake hands, and smile, and then proceed to walk off casually was a truly alien experience. Just months ago, it seemed like we were on the brink of a potential war here. These two were lobbing insults and threats at each other left and right, fire and fury, ICBMs aimed at Guam, short and fat, geriatric, and of course, Little Rocket Man. Yet here we find ourselves in a timeline where the two of them are shaking hands in real life. It was already a historic moment since a US president has never met a supreme leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, but the very public feud that these two had prior made the moment that much more surreal. I mean, even after Kim had this sudden change of heart and this summit was in pre-production, Trump just dropped out of nowhere that it wasn't going to happen, so it's really hard to tell what's the real deal here and what's just showmanship. After a brief walk around the resort they were at, the two entered a room accompanied only by their respective interpreters. At that point, there really wasn't much to see. Sure, we got a brief glimpse of the working lunch and Trump showed Kim his car, but we didn't get to see most of what was probably the good part. It's like how CD Projekt Red brought out Cyberpunk after 6 years and then only showed real gameplay behind closed doors. In terms of other guests, it was the usual suspects. Kim's sister and Kim's advisors and Trump's advisors like John Bolton. I think Kim's wife was there, but Trump's wife Melania was not present, possibly due to the recent surgery she had. More interestingly, Dennis Rodman was there, the former Chicago Bulls player who has more recently become known for his close relationship with the Supreme Leader. His arrival in Singapore was a big show, but he wasn't actually at the summit in an official capacity, despite receiving a call from the Trump administration thanking him for his actions in North Korea. So I think that's a serious waste of star power on the summit's part, and I have to wonder why the worm would go through all the trouble of flying out there even if it was on Potcoin's dime. Regardless, he still managed to steal the spotlight for a moment by way of his emotional interview with Chris Cuomo of CNN. Cuomo has interviewed Rodman in the past regarding his trips to North Korea, but most of those ended with Rodman essentially calling Cuomo a little bitch on live television. I was really wondering why Cuomo would potentially subject himself to more of that, but maybe he has a thick skin or upper management makes him do it because it gets views. Now that interview was equal parts odd and elucidating. Cuomo mentioned at the end that Rodman is our best way to understand Kim and what's going on here, and I completely agree. Rodman is in a unique position of being not only the sole American to have a personal relationship with Kim, but he also has a history with Trump. Some people have been laughing at the notion, but I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that Rodman has had some level of impact on these recent developments. Cuomo tried twice to ask Rodman if Kim knows English, and on the second attempt, Rodman suggested that he has some basic comprehension. Watching the brief interactions between Trump and Kim, it did seem like Kim understood at least some of what was being said in English. Kim studied abroad in Switzerland, so it's not a stretch. Apparently, Kim asked Rodman to relay some information to the US back in 2012 that he suggests could have led to Kim sitting down at the table much earlier. Rodman claimed that he tried to express this to Obama, who he says didn't give him the time of day. That's a pretty fascinating detail that I don't think Rodman has shared before, and I have to wonder why he hasn't until now. Then towards the back end of the interview, he thanked Eddie Vedder of Pearl Jam. Welcome to the new world, everyone. Finally, there was the signing. Again, when this was happening, it wasn't clear what exactly was being signed, but thankfully the text was released in full to the public. Before we go deeper into that, you have to see this moment where they were about to sign this thing and Kim looked a little confused, so Trump kind of like signaled him to sign it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
And that was a common theme in this whole thing that I didn't expect. Trump was physically and verbally dominating the entire atmosphere. There's another moment like that signing thing where he asks the press if they're getting a good picture of everybody so we look nice and handsome and thin, as he's about to sit down for lunch with Kim. And then there were all these more subtle moments where it seemed like Kim didn't know where to go or when he should start doing something, and I'm not sure what to make of that. We knew going into this that Trump generally behaves in a brash kind of way, but this is Kim Jong-un. You'd expect him to be a little more guarded? I guess part of it might be that Kim is not experienced at foreign diplomacy. The extent of his experience is meeting with President Moon, President Xi, and Lavrov from Russia, and this is all occurring very recently. So getting back to the actual document and agreement between the two parties. There's two criticisms here that I've seen from the media and academic types. Firstly, that Trump is offering everything and getting nothing while Kim gets exactly what he wants. And secondly, that Trump has just set a very dangerous precedent for US foreign relations going forward. I'm not so sure it's possible to draw conclusions on that first one. What does Kim really want? I don't know. No one really knows. Let's hypothetically take him at his word. He's willing to give back prisoners, dismantle his nuclear program, he already ceased testing, and after the South Korean summit, there was rumblings that he desired foreign investment, specifically asking for a McDonald's. He hasn't asked for anything in return, but it's safe to assume he wants to remain in power, even if his country undergoes fundamental change. Should the world at large be okay with that? I don't know, but at this point I can't complain. This has been a ticking time bomb in the Asia-Pacific region for decades, and things were getting worse and worse. That second criticism about the dangerous precedent kind of misses the point of what's going on here, in my opinion. The idea here is that now any other country will think they can produce nuclear weapons and get the same treatment as North Korea, but it's not like this summit happened the second North Korea proved they had nuclear capabilities. This only happened as a result of Kim's sudden desire to sit down and talk with the US and South Korea, and willingness to work towards peace and normalized relations. So what do I want to see going forward? Kim coming to the White House for sure. Trump teased at this, said he was open to it if they make some progress on their promises, so with any luck we will get to see that come to fruition, but there's no date on that or window. Realistically, the soonest it could be is sometime in the fall, maybe September, but I wouldn't put any money on it. Then I want to know what the Chinese think. Up until now, it was really only the Chinese that communicated regularly with North Korea, and the roots of that are of course historical. What do the Chinese think of this? I hope we find out soon. For them, North Korea is of extreme geographical importance as a strategic buffer zone between US forces and China itself, but at the same time, they probably weren't loving the nuclear testing in their backyard. Overall, it was a pretty good event, almost great. Yes, it was historic, but all the behind closed doors stuff and poor scheduling definitely knocks it down a point or two. For sure a better showing than EA or Ubisoft, but I could see an argument that Todd's announcement of not only Starfield but also Elder Scrolls 6 is just as, if not more, unprecedented than what took place at this event. Let me know what you guys thought of the summit down below, and until next time, thanks for watching.